Good morning. What's today? Today is, oh my gosh, hold on one second. Today is Wednesday. Oh my God, it like skipped my mind. I am so moved because today will be my grandfather's birthday. Booker Cobb is his name. Or when he was alive, he died probably, so let me center myself first. Good morning, y'all. How y'all doing? I'm the Moon Mama. So happy to see you guys this morning and be with you. It's a new month. We are in a new month. Can you believe that? Literally, I feel like just yesterday I was seeing everybody be like, Happy August, right? And literally it's been like 3 days and now it's September. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. How fast time is flying. And it's so interesting because when I first started doing a lot of deep spiritual work, it was probably really at my Saturn's return when I turned 29. I was a born again speaking in tongues Christian. I was a Jesus is everything, kind of Christian, and I went into a questioning time where I started questioning where like I just was like, this isn't working, and I was really close to someone who had a father who was a really devout Christian minister. And I had made a decision. I remember being in my bed one night and I made a decision that I was going to go visit Agape, where Reverend Michael Beckwith teaches and preaches. And it was up the street from my house. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like a big deal, but it was a big deal because I was really going to step into a new way of being connected to God. And so when that happened, the very next morning, I was getting ready. I was going to go to Agape. No, and that night, my friend's father called me, the one who was a Christian minister. And it was weird. He would never call. That was not who we were, even though I was very close to his daughter. But he called me out of the blue to like proselytize to me about Jesus. And I remember he said something like, many are called, but few are chosen. And I was like really asking, like, well, what does that mean, right? What does that mean? And I think that means something individual for all of us. Many are called, but few are chosen. And I think I used to think about that in comparison to others, right? But now I think about many are called. And I think of that from an internal aspect of like the voice that calls the aspects of me home to myself. The voice within me, the God voice within me that calls the aspects that don't know who they are inside of me, the part of me that's doubtful, the part of me that's fearful, the part of me that's, sad, the part of me that's separated. There's an aspect of me that's calling those aspects home. Many are called, right? Many are called, but few are chosen. But only few of those aspects will choose to come back home and go like, oh, okay, great, I'm lost, I'm coming back home. So now I see that meaning in a very different way than I did at the time. And I was, like I said, I was about 29 or so when that occurred. And I literally stepped into another faith. I was always very religious as a child. I've always been this kind of person who's like God, God, God. And it just had to shift into other ways for me to express it. But today is September 1st, and we are at the beginning of a month. And September 1st is the birthday of my grandfather, Booker Cobb, who's an ancestor now. And my grandfather, first of all, I love Virgo men. My grandfather was a Virgo, my father was a Virgo. The thing about Virgo men that I think is really fascinating is they love women. They either have a lot of women or just very interested in cultivating relationships and connection to the feminine, or they're gay. One or the other. Virgo, and the reason why is because Virgo is the constellation, the energy that is the first of all, Virgo is the only constellation where they use a human as the symbol, right? So the symbol of Virgo is the Virgin, and it's a woman. And the other is they do have the symbol of Gemini twins or two children, right? So that's human. But there isn't a symbol in astrology where it's a man. That doesn't exist, right? All the other symbols are inanimate or animals or things like that. But for Virgo and Gemini, it's humans because they're governed by Mercury, and Mercury is the mind. And so the Virgo is the aspect of the feminine thinking, the feminine aspect of the divine. And it's where things come out of the opposite of Virgo is Pisces. And Pisces is the heavenly aspect of Virgo, and Virgo and yes, it's the heavenly aspect. It's the heavens, right? It's the subconscious. Virgo is the earth. It's the practical. So Virgo men tend to lean very much towards feminine energy, feminine ways of being. And they do that in their unique ways. Like my father, for instance, was just very, very neat. He was very particular about everything. T-shirts, clothing, his clothes were tailor-made. He cared about the kind of food he ate. He was just very geared towards the feminine. And my grandfather had 4 daughters. My grandfather was from Mississippi. He witnessed his father being murdered on a sharecropper's farm when he was 15 years old. His father was murdered by a white man. And he left Mississippi and never, ever, ever went back, ever. And came to Los Angeles and became a millionaire. Worked as a longshoreman and became a millionaire and bought property all over Los Angeles, California. Have 4 daughters, married many, many, many times because he loved women. And when I was a little girl, he would always say to me, Mo Bear, I'm going to buy you a ring for every finger, I'm going to put a ring on all of your fingers. That's the kind of man he was. And it's really interesting. We had an interesting thing when he was married to a woman who was really like my mother's age, right? So he was married to a woman who was the age of his oldest daughter. And they discovered that she was stealing from him at some point in the marriage. Like his daughters really kept his records and his books and things like that, and discovered that this woman that he was married to was stealing from him, like bought her children cars and credit cards in his name and all that kind of stuff. And then shortly after that, she was diagnosed with cancer, which was like a really weird thing. She was diagnosed with cancer and then proceeded to die, and got really, really ill. And my family is on that side of my family. That's my mother's side of the family. My mother, I've told you guys, my mother was a prostitute and all that sort of stuff. So it was interesting because my grandfather used to tell his daughters, he really trained his daughters how to manage men is what he did. He trained his daughters how to manage men. And all of them had interesting relationships with men, but he really took care of them all. And when he died, he left all of them property. And it was an interesting thing because he and I had a bit of a falling out because when I was in my 20s, I was dating a white man. And he didn't say anything to me about it, but he was upset. And when his wife died and he died, he left me out of his will because I was in a relationship with a white man. And there's a little more to the story that I don't want to go into because I was definitely responsible for some choices that I made, even though I was a very young woman. But he taught me a lot of lessons about family and loyalty to family and legacy and how we take care of one another. And even though he's made his transition, he has come back to me in several readings from other people, other ancestors, people do ancestral work, to really help me realign my energy and understanding that I didn't really need his money, that I really needed that experience of him leaving me out of his will so that I would do the deep work to rectify my own energy and become who I'm here to be, so that I would be independent in a way that I really needed to be. And so, I never really felt anything that he didn't, I never felt angry about it. I always felt like, oh, he's giving me a lesson that I need that's going to really help me live my life in a powerful way. So I just want to say light and blessings to my grandfather, Booker Cobb. His birthday's today. And I'm so very grateful to live in the legacy of what he his life, having come from Mississippi, endured all of that racism, and then to come to Los Angeles and become successful and a millionaire and really set up his legacy and his family in a way that we get to thrive. And so light and blessings to my grandfather, Booker Cobb. Okay, so today is a Mercury day, and Mercury is currently at the 3rd degree of Libra. And Mercury is our perceived reality. It's how we think. And Mercury in Libra is really about how we think about other people, how we create our relationships with others. I want to let y'all know that Mercury is going into retrograde in 26 days. So we are going to be going into the Mercury retrograde shadow really soon. And this retrograde energy is going to impact our relationships. I'm going to try to do a class on this. I don't know if I could get the class set up before I go to Egypt, because it starts the day that I get back from Egypt. So I would really need to have everything set up so that when I come back, I can just hit the ground running. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this. But what I do want to encourage you all to do is to really be mindful of where Libra is in your chart, right? So I have Libra in the 7th house, and this energy, Libra is about marriage and partnership, right? Your relationships with others. And this Mercury retrograde in Libra is going to recode our relating style, the way you relate. So if you are passive aggressive or codependent, all that shit is time to go. Like literally, it's time to let go of the ways that we use each other unconsciously, unintentionally, shadow ways, the way that we pull energy from one another without being clear. And so we're going to see those things really show up in our lives, because Mercury retrograding in Libra is, it's going to be a doozy. So I just really encourage you. I encourage you to, go get a notebook, write down your 10 most significant relationships. And then write down, write down the names of the people that you have the most significant relationships with. And then in another column, maybe list what you offer in those relationships. What do you bring to those relationships? That's the thing that I find is most important. Most people are looking to see what they get from relationship. The work is really to understand what you give in relationship, because you're gonna get what you give. That's the secret. You're gonna get what you give. And most people will be like, I give so much, and nobody gives in return. Really, you're not giving anything. Because if you're not getting anything, it's because you're not giving anything. But the energies are misaligned in some way. So make a list of your 10 most significant relationships, and then make a list of what you give, and then make a list of what you get. And then that should be the launch into your Mercury retrograde in Libra, so that you can really begin to see how you are relating, and are you delusional, and are you overgiving? Are you overextending yourself? Are you passive aggressive? Are you depending on other people for things that is your responsibility? Those are the kinds of ways we want to be really looking at Mercury in Libra. I happen to have Mercury in Libra, and I find it to be, and it's conjunct Venus. I find it to be an energy that has me very focused on others and what they need. That's just the way it shows up in my life. Like, it shows up where I tend to overgive, where I tend to feel what other people need and be able to anticipate their needs. And sometimes that's great, for others. And like when I'm in motherhood, that's great. I can anticipate what my son needs. But really what happens for me is that I will just anticipate what people need and then start to give it. And I give without the reciprocity, right? And so I had to realize that I was giving from a place that was born out of a need to feel valuable. Like I was giving because I wanted to feel valuable to that person and not because I am valuable to everyone and anyone in my life. And because I was giving from a place of scarcity and lack, I wasn't getting anything back. That's how it works, right? So you've got to be really mindful of your motivation. Where are you giving from? Are you giving from a full, overflowing, vessel that is complete and whole and enough within itself? Or are you giving from the scarcity or the expectations or the emptiness that is your story, right? So look at your whole life and see how this energy has been working inside of you. The moon today is in Cancer, and Cancer is our early childhood patterning. So you really want to be taking an opportunity to look at what your patterning has been around the way you relate to others, the way you come into relationship, the way you feel, right? So for me, my patterning around relating to others was always, because of the childhood that I have, was that I need to make myself a benefit. I need to do a lot so that I can earn love, so that I can earn peace, so that I can earn a place. And so all my doing was born out of fear and scarcity from childhood, right? So now as I've been learning my astrology and practicing and working with other people in their astrology, I've started to retool that and reframe that and tell a new story about that. And that's what you want to do. You want to really look at what that's like. So for me, I look at, because I wasn't raised by two parents, I have people in my life, in my family, who were raised by two parents. And I noticed when I was around those children, maybe when I was in my 20s or so, right? I had children in my life who had two parents who were in my family. And I noticed that that their parents sort of catered to them in some ways and prioritized them. And that was something I didn't experience in my life. So I had to go back and do that to myself. Cater to my needs, prioritize myself, reparent myself, right? So yes, she says, I gave in the past to prove my worth. Exactly, right. So we want to be looking at where we are with this Libra partnering energy, our relating energy. We're going to have this Mercury retrograde going on. Mercury hasn't gone into retrograde yet. It hasn't even gone into its shadow. But it retrogrades on the 27th or 26th of 26th of September, which means that it'll go backwards at that point, right? So it's going to be in Libra for several weeks. So really be mindful. You will get a lot of opportunities to work on the way you relate. Cancer energy, the sun in Virgo, literally reprogramming it, right? Bringing yourself to a new understanding, a new way of being, new rituals, all those sorts of things. And if you like to, you can schedule a reading with me, and I will put that link you can find my classes and my readings in my link tree here in my profile. You can just go into the link tree in my profile and you can schedule readings. And so I will create one for Mercury retrograde. And if you guys want to book Mercury retrograde readings, you can start doing that maybe tomorrow. Okay, I'm done. I love y'all very much. Again, light and blessings to my grandfather and his journey as an ancestor, Booker Cobb. Light and blessings to all of the masculine beings that have contributed to the well-being and health and wholeness in our lives. Even if they did that in ways that didn't look like that, right? Because I've talked about my father and he was abusive and all that kind of stuff, but that healed me. My father's behavior healed me. I understand, because I understand astrology. I look at him oh, he was just at war with the feminine. That was his soul's journey. His soul's journey was to be at war and at odds with the feminine. It was going on inside of him and then expressed externally, right? My father was a Virgo. So literally it could have been that he was internal, maybe he was gay, or maybe, you have no idea what it is because the soul is working it out. But however it is showed up, it outpictured in this way where he was abusive to my mother and abusive to other women. But it taught me a lot of great lessons that I needed to learn. So we can really find ways to give thanks for all of the masculine bodied beings in our lives and trust and know that they are our teachers, because they really are projections of our inner reality. All right. Peace and blessings, you all. I'm the Moon Mama. Have a really beautiful day. Bye-bye.